Greetings everyone, my name is Kestony, I'm a professional chess coach and I'm very happy to present this video lecture to you where I'm going to share my best tips on how you can take your beginner chess skills and get to intermediate level as soon as possible. We're going to start talking about the most important strategies that you could implement into your game right away, as well as the tactical side. Now, what does it mean, tactics? Tactics in chess are forcing sequence of moves that lead to material gains or checkmating. The most important part for you right now is to be working on basic puzzles. That means that there are positions where you could checkmate your opponents, checkmates in once, checkmates in two, and grinding them over and over again in order to develop what we call pattern recognition. Pattern recognition in chess is simply placement of the pieces that allow the tactic to be possible, and you recognize it intuitively right away because you have seen something like that in the past. Take a very good resource or ask your chess coach, whether it's me or another person, to give you a list of puzzles that involve very, very common tactical patterns that occur in the game again and again and again. You don't want to be solving random puzzles on chess.com because they'll consist of a lot of tactical patterns that you will simply not meet in your games. Work on those that, especially checkmates that have names next to them, like Smothered Mate, Anastasia Mate, and try to do them a couple of times in a row. By doing that, instead of solving harder puzzles, you're going to be boosting your intuitive feeling and recognition, or so-called tactical awareness, so that you would be able, without any thinking process involved or any conscious mind, recognize those scenarios and those moments when you can win the piece and checkmate. In other words, you have to know it rather than try to find it in the game. Now let's talk about the strategy part, which is the main part of today's lecture. I'm going to help you with identifying strategic elements that will be happening in every game you play. First of all, why do we need the pawns in the center? That's my favorite one. People still are not getting that. They protect your bishops and knights in the game in the center. So that means that your bishops and knights, as white right now, will be able to go to very effective squares, while your opponent's bishops and knights, especially look at the bishops, they will not be able to become as active as yours. Also, their knights at the right moment can be kicked away if we play d5 or e5. Believe me, I have very, very strong students that are new to my lessons, and they would be evaluating something like this as better for white. This is completely equal position. The pawns in the center have almost no influence over the queens on rooks. In other words, white's queen or rooks in this position are not having better potential than the black's queen and rooks. How do we know that? Well, rooks really belong on open lines. So rooks will be much more happy if we played a move like, say, h4, because then the rook could be lifted, move up, and have an open line to play on. Now, regarding the queens, they simply move in too many ways to be restricted by something like pawns. So black's queen can go to f6, g5, h4, can play c6 followed by queen, b6 or a5. And so really white does not have an advantage in this position. So please remember the function of the pawns in the middle. They provide your bishops and knights safety on very active central squares, while also taking away those squares from opponents' bishops and knights. Knowing concretely why you're better, why central control is giving you an advantage, will help you understand it better and follow it up with the right strategy, which would be developing the bishops and knights, in this case, to those more better squares in the center. The next principle that I think are very, very important for you to understand is the concept of opening up the position. Opening up the position in chess means simply exchanging the pawns. When the pawns are cleared from the center or specific parts of the board, we say that the position is opening up. And you want to do that when you have better pieces or when you have lead in development. So to a lot of beginners, this move d5 would seemingly increase the central control. Notice that we're not losing the pawn because it's going to be protected enough, but from strategy point of view, white has more development. They already have castled, they have 3 pieces developed while we have only 1. So black is doing just fine in this position, but the right strategy would be to continue developing pieces and perhaps then looking for something like d5. You could just see the consequences that are going to be occurring after black played d5. White opens up the position even further, and once the position opens up, it looks so sad for black. Right now, white is exerting a lot of pressure on the pawn on d5, our king can get really weak, and a few moments later, black had to resign because it's a double check and it's checkmate on the board. So the principle that you need to know is that you want to open up the position when you're ahead in development or have better pieces, and you want to keep the position closed when you're behind in development or have worse pieces. When you're playing early in the game, try to not move the same piece twice or more times, and try to not bring the queen out to danger if there is no specifically good reason to do that. If you move the knight twice but you win the queen, that's fine, right? This is an example game how a beginner player with the black pieces wasted a lot of time moving their queen, and white is going to be able to build full lead in development. As you can see, the queen is already moving like 6 times or 7 times. White continues to improve the position of their pieces until the queen is almost blocked, and the queen becomes trapped just a moment later, and unfortunately black has to give it up. If it's unbelievable, then trust me, this is a real game, and on chess.com black player was not even 5 or 800, in fact he was 1200. So these things are happening, and please, oh please, try to avoid losing so many cold tempi, avoid moving the same piece more than once without having a very good reason to do that. And last but not least, castle prophylactically. Just like at night we lock our door, we also want to castle not when the king of ours is in danger, but we do it prophylactically. Black in this position thought that he could still develop a piece and not castle for one more move. I was playing with the white pieces, and white has a strike in the center with d5, taking advantage of the pin that exists on the e file. And now it's too late for black to castle because I could already start discovering attacks against the bishop and winning some material. So black has to take on d5. I can take back. Notice again that the black pawn is unable to take the knight due to the pin that exists on the e file. And I'm again threatening to take the knight and win the bishop on d6. Black played bishop e5 in the game, and this is simply losing because I can take on e5, follow this up with bishop f4, and we have striking opportunities for white where checkmate was delivered and black lost the game. Hire me as your personal online chess coach. If you find this useful, my contacts are on the screen. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next lesson. Bye-bye.